Hello, and thank you for attending this session on how approval procedures within SAP Business One can help you manage your business proactively instead of reactively. And as a result, will help you obtain a faster ROI or return on investment when considering a business management solution. Before we actually enter a transaction and trigger the approval procedure, the first thing I want to show you is the template that's associated with approval procedures. In this case, you can see the template has a number of different tabs. Okay, and we'll take a look at each of those tabs. And the approval template that I'm going to be considering today is where we're going to require an approval when a customer exceeds their credit limit. On the originator tab, you will note that again here you can identify users that you want to trigger an originator. Maybe in this case Sophie is a new or a troubled employee, so therefore we want to make sure we monitor her transactions. But in addition to that, you could add others as well. On the document tab, we can identify what documents that we want to trigger the approval or have the approval procedure originate. In this case, I'm monitoring transactions at the sales order level, but note that I could also do it on the buy side as well, and also on inventory transactions as well as outgoing payments. On the stages tab, I can identify who's going to be responsible for approving the transaction. In this case, it's either going to be manager or Tom Brady. Now also what you'll note here is that I could also have various levels of approval. So I could have it go, for example, to the controller first, and then once the controller approves the transaction, it could then go to the CFO for approval. So you can put multi-level approval characteristics as well. And then finally on the Terms tab, we can determine, okay, what's going to trigger an approval procedure. Now there's a handful of predefined ones, and again the one we're looking at is deviation from credit limit. And if I scroll to the right here, it's going to be greater or equal, but again you can see a number of characteristics of which you can choose from. In my case it's greater or equal to $1,000. So I'm going to allow, basically I'm building in a cushion, if you will, on my credit limit of $1,000. But you could also do, I want to approve this transaction if it's gross profit or discount related, or if it's deviation from budget, or maybe even the total document amount, as well as I can create my own. So again, if there's something that's important to me and it doesn't meet one of these 5 or 6 criteria here, I could create my own approval procedure as well. Now also note, you could have more than one of these items checkbox. So for example, if there's a deviation from credit limit and the discount is greater, I want to set this transaction aside for approval. So now that we have the template set up, let's go ahead and enter the Sophie session. And here Sophie's going to go ahead and create a sales order for her customer Earthshaker. So very simple. She's going to enter the customer name, tab off, grab a couple of line items here. She's going to add those line items. Okay. And when she goes ahead and adds the transaction, she gets this pop-up. Again, that's notifying her that this transaction requires approval, and you may recognize this exceeds credit limit. So work with me, and that exceeds credit limit was the name of the approval procedure that we had seen a few moments ago. So if I go ahead and click OK, now at this point it's just asking me if I want to update the transaction. If you see the green bar coming across the bottom of the window, it's actually telling me that this is being saved as a draft document. And the reason it's being saved as a draft because it does require approval, and therefore we do not want to commit inventory until the transaction has been approved. If you note, I'm back in Sales Manager session. In real time, he actually receives notification. There's Sophie's comments. And he can drill back, and just to confirm, there's the document that we had just seen. So if we drill back, there is the sales order. And again, here's the template that we saw a few moments ago. So Sophie, sales order, manager, or Tom Brady are going to approve this transaction, evaluating the fact that it exceeds the credit limit. So I can display the history here because again, these approval procedures are real time. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and approve the transaction. Okay, this time. And note what happens when I choose update. My history is updated real time. And again, it may be tough to see, but this is actually showing up in green. If he had declined it, it would actually show up in red. However, even at that point, if manager had declined it, Tom Brady still has the opportunity to approve this transaction. Now to complete the process, we're going to go back into the Sophie session, and you'll again see that Sophie receives notification that this transaction, it has been approved. However, it's still in draft mode. So to complete the process, what Sophie's going to do is she's going to go ahead and add the transaction. And if I immediately call it back up, you'll see that it's still Actually, it's approved, and the draft has been dropped from the title of the document. So again, approval procedures help you manage the business proactively instead of reactively. And where it's really important is they can help you obtain a faster ROI or return on investment when considering buying a business management solution. Thank you for attending.